Okay, good morning. So what I wanted to do this morning is I'm just going to cover, for those folks that are new, very briefly how you get into this system and what things to fill out, and then we'll spend the majority of the time doing questions and answers with specific questions that people have. And if those folks that are familiar with the system want to jump off, then they can go on to other things. So on the screen, can everybody see my screen right now? The Facilities Issues webpage?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right, great.
Yeah.
So you would just go to the Facilities Issues, or you could go to the Utilities Council page, which I believe is the link that went out in the other email. But in any event, the login area is just over here on the side. And I am already logged in, so I'm not going to need to click and enter that. And if you need login information, just shoot me an email and we'll get you set up. The survey links are down here on the left side. You do have to be on the utilities page, but once you log in, it'll put you in the right page. And then if you click on this survey forms link, it will come up with all the different sections of the surveys that we do have, and it'll give you the welcome page here, and then you can click on the go to my survey. Now you will see a status percentage up here because folks that had data from last year, we do bring that forward so you don't have to re-enter something that hasn't changed from last year, but you will want to edit it all, and we will encourage you to kind of review everything. I do want to point out that the survey resources, that there's this link right here that's called printable version, and I'm going to click that, and what that will give you, if you wish, is it opens a window with the survey, the entire survey here. So it'll print, I think, about 20 pages if you print it, or you can print it, save it off as a PDF. But this will let you have all the fields, and it will show your data that you have in here already, so you can sit down and edit it or go through it offline or share it with folks in your organization. Okay, so that's a handy little feature. We do have this little legend that's going to stay on here. I'm just going to jump over to the first page of the survey, and I'll go to the headquarters piece just to show folks how this works. So in each section of the survey, some of these sections down below may not apply to you. So if you want to ignore the entire section, if you check this little box at the top, the survey tool will consider that section done, and it won't remind you to go back and finish it. Some folks do not have some of the functions that are included in parts of the survey, such as the copy areas and printing and things like that, and it's just an easy way to kind of opt out of those. All the questions will have the plus. If they're not expanded, you can hit the plus and it will expand and give you the questions. And as you fill data in, it will give you a little green check for things that have data in them, so it will keep track of them. And it saves them as you go. You can see it saves it like that, so if you need to jump out of the survey and come back later, it will remember the data that you did put in. There's no need to have to do it all in one session. Many of the questions do have this little information button, and what that will do will give you some background or clarification on what the question data is or what's about, and you can hover over to get it. If you go back to this printable version, those information buttons are these notes here that are in the boxes underneath. So if you had that printed by your side for reference, you would have those in front of you as well, but they're also on the screen. Once you get into a section, there is some more resources up here on the side, and what these are some of the definitions that we use. So if we're looking for weighted averages, for example, here's an example of how you would calculate a weighted average for building age. And these are selectable, so if you need to select this and copy and paste it into something so you have it as reference, you can do it. You can do that. Same thing with maintenance scope, what's included in here. And I see that Allison's on the call. So Allison, the clarification on that administrative cost is the administrative cost that's part of management supervision, that's part of the maintenance operation, needs to be basically put into the loaded labor field that you have. or the cost that you have there. Janitorial, there's the same kind of definition of what's included, and now there also is an Excel spreadsheet, and it downloaded here. Let's open this up. That will, oh, it's not going to open for me. I've got an Excel issue on this computer. That will let you collect the data in Excel, but as of right now, you would have to come back and enter it into the screen because it does not, it does not have an upload function. That's something that I've got the web guy looking at, so that in the future, we're hoping that we can collect the data in Excel and then just upload it into the system. So as you go through, each section works the same way. There will be some questions, then ones that are filled in. As you check them, they will, as it saves, it'll give you a little green check mark on those. Okay, we have two new sections this year. One of these is about technology. We've had a lot of discussion at the meetings with that, and the idea was that let's first just try to understand who's using what before we try to get too detailed in how we're benchmarking stuff with this. So we've got broken out the types of functions that you might use a system for, and we're looking to say who uses a system or does this kind of effort. Do you do it, yes or no? And if you do, what do you have, a system or software? You're using Excel, and you can see here the question mark if you use, or the information. If you use paper files or Excel or some homegrown system, tell us that, because we do have people that are still using that for some of these functions. And it's we're trying to get a sense of what folks are doing, and then we can be a little bit more intelligent in the conversations that we have. Plus, we can match people up if somebody's looking to say, hey, who else is using this particular system? Do you have any tips for us? Because we're just starting with it. We're getting a lot of questions like that. We just want some quick yes or no's. Is it in the cloud, or is it integrated with other systems, partially or not? And in the case of all these, it's whether you use this in some way at some of your places. It's not necessarily do we have 100% of our system in this, but we do have these systems that we are using for different things. So we have space, occupancy, which is how you're using the space, whether you have a work order system or not, whether you're in fact tracking your equipment and your PMs and inspections, whether you're using one of the facility condition systems or your own. And what this last one is a lot more general, because we have a lot of interest in the Internet of Things right now, but it's very complicated subject, so we're just trying to figure out who's using what kind of sensors and building systems now. Again, like I said, so we can have some better discussions, presentations at the meetings, and also start to figure out how we can benchmark pieces of that is useful to us. So we've got this open-ended question at the end. If you've got some reaction to how this was set up or any other comments on these kind of technologies, we'd like to hear that. The other section that's new, and some of you did fill in the draft one we did earlier this year, is the organization staffing, which also has been, organizations have been a perpetual discussion at all the meetings. So we ran a very detailed draft of that early this year that some folks participated in, and we found the feedback was it was a little bit too complicated, too detailed. So we did say we're going to focus on the operations area, and then just try to get a sense of how people are staffed in terms of this is information we think people will pretty much have at their fingertips, so it shouldn't take a lot of effort to collect, is the idea. And it's where does the organization report, what type of organization are you, and then some general stats that we can use to try to evaluate staffing levels based on the span of control, the types of facilities and span of control. We have two new questions down here for folks that did fill out the prior one that came up out of one of the studies that we had done, which is if you have spread out facilities, travel time becomes an important issue, and it's it's a difficult challenge for most of us to try to track that. So, but we do find that most people do have a total business mileage that gets logged somewhere. They'll have a car, or they'll have a monthly report that they'll do. So if in fact you have that information, we'd like to get that mileage information, and we'll see how that will factor into, we'll be doing some sample charts with and without that to see how that factors into the span of control. So as I said, the primary area is going to be facility operations, which is just the manager, supervisor, some of the support staff, and then all the crafts in one bucket. So we're not going to try to figure out who's got multi-skilled, who's got carpenters, painters, whatever. But let's put them all in one bucket and see how that looks, because that everybody seems to be going more to the multi-skilled workforce anyway. And then the rest of these are just if you have positions. So again, so people can compare, oh, we still have some of these kind of positions and we need to manage those. We can do some comparisons from those. And then everything else that's in your facilities group is in this other section called other facility management project, and it's / project staff, because that tends to be what most of those are. And we just have some of the most common headings. So if you have folks in these job titles or the closest one, say architect engineer one, is not necessarily a licensed person, but somebody that is has that type of profile. We'll put those in, and we'll start to see again what the patterns look like there. There was some interesting discussion around who actually has staff in-house and who does not, and the pros and cons of that. So we want to encourage that kind of dialogue. So those are the things, the two sections that are new, and that's the overview of how the system works. So at this point, I'd like to get questions from folks, or if I covered something too quickly and I need to go back over it. Anybody that has some question for us, why don't you chime in? I surely couldn't have done that good of a job.
Hey, Bob.
Questions? Yes, go ahead.
It's Donna. So you were just discussing the facility management staff, so then I would just include the folks that are in our real estate workplace services organization. That really truly is our facility staff. Is that right? We don't include other organization folks in that.
You're going to include dedicated. It's the trick, Donna, is dedicated. So if you if you had a contract with say you have a system-wide HVAC contract, and on your account they have 2 supervisors and 15 building engineers, you're going to count those because they're dedicated to you, whether they have your badge or not. But we're not going to try to figure out when you call that occasional plumber in, or if you just hire somebody because your air conditioner broke. We're not going to try to track that kind of information, because that's more a break fix kind of thing. We're looking for the staffing that you have programmed through the year that we know these bodies are working on our facilities.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is that clear?
And I know, yes, it is.
So we found that was one of the lessons we learned, is we found that there's the insourced model, there's the outsourced model, and then there's the blanket contract model that people had, where I do have a contract for, say, my HVAC stuff. That was the most common that was in the middle. And then, of course, all the problems, as you know, were about all the incidental hires that we do, or contracts. We don't want to, if you've got 350 contractors, we don't want to have you put that kind of energy into this.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
Hey, Robert, this is Bobby Vide with Duke. I took over for Chris Arbuckle.
Yeah, hi Bobby. Good. Glad you joined us.
Yeah, I think I don't have any questions right now. I think as I go through it and look at the data that we uploaded last year and get familiar with it, I may have some questions at that time, and that's I'll reach out to you directly.
Sure.
As things come up, if that's all right.
That's just fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey Bob, I have another question. This is Donna from AEP.
Sure.
the data centers, I noticed that there were reports that were provided in this last survey that we had in 2016. Will you continue to support data centers with reports?
We will. We're still collecting the data here on the data centers.
Okay.
That section's still here.
Okay.
So that will be a question I'm going to start to ask people as we go forward, is if there are sections of the survey, you notice the report it's gotten very large. If there are sections that we're no longer using or no longer useful to folks, I will want to thin those back so we can, kind of evolve and change them to things that are useful to folks. And
right. Okay.
So if this very last section on feedback, that would be a kind of place to if you could put your thoughts there about if there's stuff that's missing, that would be helpful, because
okay.
I know that's where this technology thing came from, is people said we really need to try to learn about this Internet of Things stuff and we just don't know where to start. And so we're trying to make a start.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, we can end this now. Everybody's gotten my contact information. So if you get into something, as Bobby just said, and you're 6 questions into something, you have a question come up at that point, give me a shout and we'll go over it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.